23 will be 4 years. So 19.
Okay. I will call the Everman City Council workshop for. I will call the Everman City Council workshop for Tuesday, July 26, 2022 to order. The time is 5:31. Citizen comments, we have anything? No, okay. Discussion items, item A, payroll and benefits.
Okay. I'm going to ask that we go in a slightly different order. If we can jump to B first.
Okay. All right.
Actually C, sorry. C and then B.
C,
Okay.
B, and A, we're going
Yep.
completely backwards.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's start with
That
item
is-
C.
Yep. And that
General
is, I
fund.
just wanted to regroup on the expenditures. I updated the amount for dispatch to include the communications line item that we had discussed of $20,000 that was moving it from fire over to dispatch. And I also upped the city council expenditure line item for travel to $7,500. I'll throw that out there and start the discussion.
Anybody got any questions, comments on general fund, water sewer fund, and special revenue fund expenditures?
And for council, that's how much per person?
So we were kind of talking about this earlier, the mayor, and one of the recommendations I made was that maybe what we do is we revamp the training policy for council to where places 1, 3, and 5 are allocated for TML conference cost every year. And then the opposite year is places 2, 4, and 6. So it's every other year, 3 council members are fully funded to go to the TML conference within the budget. Now, each year within that policy, if place, and I'm just throwing out different numbers, but if place four isn't going to go and it's their year to go and they want to pass it to place 3, certainly okay to do that. You can transfer it between, but we budget for 3 council members to go to the TML conference every year, plus some additional cost in there for local trainings, Region 8 meetings, those sorts of things in there as well. So based off that and that discussion, I think is where we landed on the $7,500 a year.
Okay.
And then so on a separate topic at a separate meeting, of course, we'll need to talk about the governance policy and revamping that training policy. But I think currently we have 1, maybe 2 that go to a conference a year. So I think that's above and beyond what I think council's expectation is. The other thing to consider that we talked about earlier too is that we're going to have a new council member coming in November. And that council member is going to be required to take the new trainings that are out there, the Open Meetings Act, and whatever legislatively required trainings there are. So we need to make sure that we cushion that a little bit. So we made a pretty good jump for 7,500. How you want to spend that or divvy it up amongst yourselves is obviously up to you. But that was the principle that we were coming up with, was maybe we pay for 3 council members every other year to go fully funded to the TML conference.
Well, we just have 1 going this year. So next year, the conference is in Dallas.
No, wait a minute.
So-
Instead of this year, next year, put a year number on it. In
Well,
22,
The 22-23 year.
October
It's always in
23.
October.
Right. So October
So-
2022, Johnny's going.
Johnny's going.
Okay. And 23,
October 23 is in Dallas.
yay, something
So-
close.
And that'll
But
be
that's next
the
budget.
next budget year, not this
Right,
budget.
So
right.
we can increase that number or
Right.
whatever we see
But then
fit.
again, without the hotels and stuff, people driving back and forth, then the cost will be less per person.
Yeah, yeah,
So more people can
Considerable.
actually go.
yeah.
Okay, so how is it regarding regional meetings? Is it the same for regional meetings?
So the regional meetings are built in, we pay for the mileage reimbursement to the Region 8 meetings. And I think that's built into the governance policy currently. Is that right? Am I wrong in saying that? I believe that's,
Well, it just says TML in general, so.
Okay.
TML training.
so Region 8 meetings, I believe, are covered under the current governance policy. But however, that's y'all's training budget and what y'all's training rules, however you want to amend that, we can amend it however you want to.
Well, I think those meetings, I looked up past ones, you never know when they're going to fall. So I think it's done quarterly, if I'm not mistaken, looking in past. And, some are close and some aren't that close. So they're, Region 8's a big region. So,
Well, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to host one. coming up.
Okay, so how does that work for us training for employees?
That's a different budget
What do
item.
you, for
But it's a
training?
different budget item, but it's still talking about training and travel.
So yes, but each department has their own training and travel budget, and how they decide to spend their training and travel budget is up to that department director.
So, but are they limited to a certain amount?
Yes.
Yes, the employees, yes. Yes. Typically, we average about, I think it's 250 to 500 per employee, depending on what department. Police and fire have a little bit more costly training that's required because they have to complete annual CEs. We increased public works training budget last year to a much higher number because they weren't getting training at all before. So for the first couple of years, we wanted to get the new training.
It's still broken up by employees.
By
It's not.
Okay,
It's not
and what
that
about EDC?
We only have the one EDC member. He does have a training. I don't have the expenditures in front of me. I should have brought that in here. Do you remember what your training and travel budget is?
She's gonna go get it.
Okay, while we're waiting on that, we're still up on the general fund expenditures, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, as far as for the library, are they in need of cameras for security?
Yes, but we're wanting to fund that through either a grant project or special revenue of some type. Because when we redo the cameras in the library, we would like to tie that into the same system as the police department, fire department, and civic center. Mike Nicoletti and I have been working with Fortress Security. We've been very pleased with the new security system that's across the street. Our previous camera vendor has gone out of business, completely untouchable, can't get in touch with them, and that's the, oh, thank you. And that's the vendor that supplied us with the park cameras, the PD cameras. So we can't even get them maintained right now. So we're having to try to find an alternative vendor. Fortress Security has been around for a very long time, and we've been very pleased with them at the Civic Center. We've got a couple of hiccups with them on the video we're trying to get sorted out, but hopefully we can get that sorted out. And it's our belief that they'll probably become our primary security vendor for the city. That way we can get all the buildings on the same security system. So the access cards that work at City Hall will work for the employees at the police department, fire. It's all the same system across the board.
So is that going to be this fiscal year?
Yes, that's our goal. And our hope is once we finish out the bond fund and we see how much funds are left within the bond fund, we can spend those on other building improvements. And we can actually upgrade the security system, hopefully based on the funds that are left there. So it's funded from there, but not within general fund.
So one more question. I know this is not it, but, and maybe I should ask it later. On when the librarian, you get all this security camera fixed, when the librarian's in the library, will she be able to see on her computer,
Her building,
her building?
Yes.
Okay,
yes. And with it all tied into the same system, so will dispatch.
okay.
The
Yeah,
police
excellent, yes.
department will be able to monitor it
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
So EDC has a total training budget of $2,100. Keep in mind, part of that is included with his travel because he is reimbursed for mileage. I'm sorry, not mileage. He has a vehicle allowance as a part of the agreement with him.
How much was his training? I'm sorry.
$2,100,
Okay. I was
$2,100.
grabbing my pen.
Is it required that a council person have a certain amount of training a year?
Ooh, you would ask me an attorney question without the attorney here. I
I think
don't.
the only things we're required to do is what Jennifer's been giving us, right?
As far as my side, that's all I know that y'all are required at the moment.
I mean, I know council's required to have open meetings act training and I think that's the only one they're required to have, if I'm not mistaken.
Open Meetings Act, Public Information Act training, cybersecurity training are the ones that are required by the legislature. The optional ones are newly elected city officials orientation and anything else by cybersecurity. There is a certification program offered through TML, but it is not mandatory for city council members.
As far as credit cards, who all for the city has a credit card?
Department directors.
That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what reason why I ask is because I've noticed that when we have the sheet where y'all have signed off or whatever, it's all lumped in together versus separate.
To Clearcom, right?
Right, so therefore, how do you know what, who's charging what?
No, that's a very good question. So every month we get the credit card statement and both Susan and I have to sign off on the credit card statement. The signed off credit card statements go in the monthly folders and get audited every year by our auditors. They review those.
Well, and I've got a credit card too, so.
But they get
I just
expensed,
very
so they
rarely ever
hit.
use it, so.
So you would see on fire's budget, when, yes, when we initially pay it, you just see that the amount goes to commerce. And then it gets broken out and expensed out to the actual departments that charge the expenses.
And so every time a department director or an employee uses a credit card, they're required to turn in a receipt to Jennifer as a part of the AP process. She then expenses that with that receipt. If they can't provide a receipt, then they have to provide an explanation in writing of it, and that gets signed off as well.
So you said director and employee?
Yeah, we have employees that may check out a credit card. For example, if we have a police officer that's going to a training, firefighter needs to run up to Home Depot to pick up some stuff, the director may pass the card to them. Public Works staff goes up there. So it's not just directors that use it, it's directors and the mayor that are issued one. And then we have one that's available for checkout if needed.
On the lawn service that you mentioned, that totals evens out to like $3,300 a month. So what else will they be doing other than lawn for it to be $3,300 a month?
That's
Because you said they wouldn't be cutting limbs and stuff.
Yeah, they're not gonna be trimming tree limbs or anything, but they're gonna be maintaining all of the park properties and city properties, which that's a lot of land to mow, and right of ways as well. So Roy C. Brooks, Shelby Road right of ways. Is there one, there's Forest Hill Drive right away too, right? Forest Hill Drive.
It's the maintenance, the fertilizing, all of that. And it's an annual contract, not broken out monthly. And so in the spring, summer months, they could be here as much as once a week working on stuff. Whereas, then, in colder months, it's every other week or something like that. But
The east side of Shelby Road, that's Fort Worth, right? I mean, not Shelby.
The south side.
Side of Shelby.
Forest Hill.
The east side of Forest Hill
Where those
Drive,
houses are.
south of the bridge.
That's Fort
Yes,
Worth.
that is forward. Yes.
Do they ever know?
No,
Can't we request?
we have been.
You have
We have been here recently sending several requests for them to come out and trim that back.
Okay, so that building across the street from the post office, that's Fort Worth.
Yes, that is
Forward.
correct. That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Who owns the lot that's all the way down to Enon?
It used to be Mark Jones. And I can't confirm this, but I
So
believe
it's an
that,
individual.
yes, I believe it was sold. And I can't confirm that because Tad hasn't updated their online maps. Tad still shows it to be Mark Jones, but my understanding was that Mr. Jones had sold it to a potential developer for a single family development going in. So that hasn't been confirmed yet, just what I've heard.
Oh, well, back up, just a couple of topics. Open meetings and cybersecurity were required
Yes,
trainings. What
and
was that?
public information. Act.
That's it, public information. Thank you. And we do those 3 every year, correct?
It doesn't, I don't think these are required every year. I think these are required one time.
Oh, okay.
These are, as long as you've had the Open Meetings Act, Public
That's
Information
like
Act,
that for
cybersecurity.
the
Yeah, the
cybersecurity,
cybersecurity is
cybersecurity
I'm
is
sorry.
annually.
Yeah, cybersecurity
And
is
sexual
annual.
harassment is yearly. But the open meetings, that's a one-time deal.
The ARPA funds that we got for the sports association or whatever, did you not say that there was going to add it to the parks department?
You talking about the sports sponsorship funds?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes, I guess that's.
Yeah, those funds are in there, but we haven't received any more sponsorships other than the ones I recruited, to be quite frank with you. The Everman Youth Sports Association hasn't received any other sponsors. I got the first 3 out there for them and we haven't seen any other sponsorships.
No,
come in.
I was meaning the 425 that we got from Bright.
Okay, Okay, so what's your question about that one? I'm sorry.
My question is, were those funds going into the city of Everman's general fund,
Yes.
Parks Department?
Well, no, they won't go into park. They'll go into a special fund. They'll go into a
Okay.
grants fund because we'll have to track all those dollars and report those back to the Fed.
Okay.
And we'll have to go through special audit processes and everything else as a part of that grant. So it won't go into the parks fund.
Okay.
It'll go into its own fund essentially.
Do we have any other questions on general fund, water sewer fund, and special revenue fund expenditures? Okay, so let's move to item B, proposed tax rates and revenues. You're up to.
All right. Well, you want to have these two documents next to you, next to the PowerPoint to go along with our. What?
Judy doesn't have the two that were up here. 2022 tax rate calculation and the
Because we
governing
were trying
body
to leave you
summary.
out of the conversation. No, I'm just kidding.
Make sure I don't have two copies.
I thought maybe if I didn't have it, we could just go past it.
If that's the case. Okay, let's turn to page number 3, please. Property tax rate. So I'm happy to let you know that we are proposing a property tax rate decrease by 3 cents. So our proposal is on the first line there.
Property tax rate is 1.1196. That's what you're proposing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Wow. And with that, whoa. Potential increase over PY
Yes, ma'am.
Prior year.
prior.
That's due to several different contributing factors, including we've had several new homes that have been built, single homes, not developments, but we've had several new single homes that have been popping up here and there with developments. And then obviously there's been a lot of commercial improvements happening. We've seen a lot of companies investing in their commercial properties. Therefore, when they invest in your commercial properties and residential properties, obviously property values increase as well. So all that's been contributing to.
We'll
To
get
helping
to,
with that.
we'll get to that in just a second, though. The actual property value didn't go up that much.
You just said actual property values didn't go up.
Did
that
not,
much. Okay,
the appraised value,
right.
right?
Did it go down?
No,
No,
it
did
didn't
not.
go down. It's on page 4. You'll see it. It only went up a couple $100. But as part of this, you'll notice that the M&O rate went down slightly and the debt tax rate went up slightly. And that's just due to additional debt payment.
So the bottom line on this page is our property tax rate is going down 3 cents
Yes,
and potential increase over prior year is 369,197.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty good.
Yes. I thought you, of all people, would be very
Yes,
happy with
yes.
me.
Yeah, that's like 364 more than this year. Okay, I'll behave. For a little while. Okay, page 3 looks pretty good.
Okay, this is just a visual on the average household taxable value comparison.
Average single resident.
Oh, I left off the.
You forgot to carry the 1 in all these computations. I'm kidding. This is incredible
Yes,
formula.
yes, this went down, but.
Who comes up with this
is
stuff?
now negative.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. Okay.
Yeah. As it should, because
Well, that's what I was wondering.
When you're
The first
having
one,
a
I was-
reduction.
I was thinking of hardware already. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Percentage increase minus 2.44%.
yes, because we're reducing the tax rate.
Okay. Okay.
So on a house that is 112,000, which I don't think that very many are that low, but it's a savings of $32.
Wow. Impressive, yeah. All right, thank you for the glossary, and I'm not kidding.
Yes.
She actually mentioned you when she.
Uh-oh.
No, I just thought it was helpful as we go through the tax rate worksheet calculations and, talking about this tax rate and the no
Yes.
new revenue and the M&O. And I just thought it was helpful. to-
M&O is a railroad. I see. That's why you need this glossary.
So it just kind of is there for your reference. Make things easier.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, it is monopoly. We're dealing with money. All right, are we looking
So-
at page 9?
Well, yeah, in just a second.
I don't want to rush you. I'm just,
No. I just, I
Where we
provided
are.
you with the worksheet. We're not going to go by line on this, but if you have any questions, we can go over it, but somehow I don't think you will. And then this other sheet is just kind of also another breakdown to show you the total amount of this year's tax levy based on the proposed tax rate. You'll see on the bottom line, 2.9 million.
okay. Wow,
It's on a single page,
yes.
on a single page she gave you to the side. You have a single page?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. That's why you didn't see it. Yeah, we got you.
Thank you
Sorry.
very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute.
Did you find it?
On your single sheet?
On the single sheet that says 2022 governing body summary,
Yes,
number 1A.
yes. So at the
Yes.
bottom,
This
it
is
says,
just a recap and it'll show you the very bottom says proposed tax rate.
yes,
And then it shows you this year's tax levy amount of 2.9 million.
Mhm.
That's what we project to receive.
then-
Provided that everyone pays their taxes and, yeah.
and then on the same sheet, it says additional tax levy, 358,756, which is different from page 3 on your thick packet.
Yes, that
So
is,
this
cor-
is just a potential on page 3.
yes.
Okay,
And
Ooh.
the difference is over prior year.
okay.
So that's all I have for property taxes. So provided that you all are in agreement, then I will move forward with posting all of that information on the website and for our hearing for the budget.
Okay. Do we need to get a
Do
consensus?
we need a vote or just?
Not
consent?
a vote,
We
just
do need to know a
a
consensus. tonight.
consensus, so I
Okay.
can get it posted.
But we're all good with Laura.
Yes, we
Yes, I
like that.
figured, But,
That 1.119676
and
is
honestly,
good.
things are looking good. And so potentially as we're getting more homes coming in and hopefully starting to see some of that revenue coming up, I can foresee further reduction going forward. So
Excellent.
that's what we're going for.
Okay. All right. So do we have a consensus?
Yes,
Yes. You okay
We're
with it,
good.
Johnny?
yes, ma'am.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Then moving on.
Like that.
Revenues, page 9. Page 9 is just the summary listing of all of the funds.
Revenue. This is money coming in.
This is
revenue.
money coming in.
Okay. Coming in.
And just something to note here. The last line, the all equity change, 131,500 for the proposed budget. That is a surplus just so you're aware of that.
Remember that $5,000 number last budget?
Mhm.
That's replacing that $5,000. I need one. There you go.
Now that's a healthy number. All right.
So
Thank you, ma'am.
you're welcome. So moving forward, we'll break it down by funds.
Okay.
Okay, so page 11 is general fund. And the summary of the different types. And as you'll see on the bottom line here, there's a surplus in general fund of 41,480.
Okay.
And honestly, potentially that could be higher, but we opted to go on the conservative side on the budget. So that we actually meet our numbers in the event that anything happens, but
Okay, help me out. Equity change? meaning-
that's a surplus in revenue
Okay,
over
okay,
the budgeted amounts.
Okay,
Every year when we budget, we either have extra money we can put into the reserves, or we have to pull from reserves to balance the
Right.
budget.
and that's, okay,
Because
This year,
the-
we're
this-
able to.
This
add
line
that.
is how you have a balanced budget, because you have expenditures and you have revenues and they have to match.
yes,
So either that you're over it or you're under it. And that's where this
Okay.
line comes.
tell that to the federal government. will you?
Yes.
Say,
One thing I do want to
Okay.
highlight on here is on the intergovernmental revenue, you'll see down there at the bottom, that's a big jump. I just wanted to point that out. That's a big jump primarily because of the new agreement with the school district. Just
yes,
Keep that in mind. So they're
And
paying
the
for 3 additional
SROs.
positions. So that's why it's such a big jump in the intergovernmental revenue there.
okay,
Well, partly why it's such a big jump. There's some other contributing factors there as well, but
that's the
that's
big
the
one.
biggest impact there. on
Okay.
that.
Okay, but we can go now by actual type within general fund. So page 12,
I jumped ahead of you.
you did. That's okay. Obviously, the property tax number is up slightly.
Fines and warrants. On the previous page, it looked like fines and warrants was down 17,000. That's what that minus means on page 11.
Yes, that's correct.
Did I say that right?
Well, we reduced the budget by, yes.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, never mind. I got
And
you.
that is partially because our numbers were too high and we weren't collecting. I know part of this year, there
I
was
got you.
all of our issues, but,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so,
So far as court cost and everything, that should be picking up, correct?
Yes. And it has been, actually.
She's still playing catch up with a just insane backlog of cases from when the court was closed during COVID. In addition to having to play catch up, and we're starting to see those numbers pick back up. We're also seeing an increase in productivity from,
Ticket writers.
is productivity the right word? I don't think productivity is the right word. We're seeing more offenses being cited. I'll just put it as bluntly as that. We're seeing more offenses being cited. So we're having more issues coming through the court, more incidents coming through the court, which obviously means more fines.
yeah. Okay,
And hopefully, if they end up doing 2 different court sessions, potentially that number will go up
Yes.
because she'll get her backlog brought forward.
Yes.
So brought current.
How is the collection coming along? Is it good that we have a collection agency?
We do have a collection agency.
Lineberg.
Yeah, it's Linebarger, but
recycling.
eh,
We get money
it's
from
it's
them.
hit or miss. I mean, as far as they are collecting, yes, that is correct. But I'm not sure the actual percentage right now, what we have outstanding. I'd have to run a report, but yeah, they're working on it.
What about far as fines for, I forgot what, grass and stuff like that?
So it falls under the same line, the court fines and fees. For code enforcement,
Right,
yes, those fines go through the same process.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anybody go and check the slot machines, the gambling machines? in stores?
We're working on clarification on that process right now, because there's been so many changes with the ordinances. Now county actually has the ordinance out over it. But many of our locations don't even fall under that ordinance because they know the number of machines they're allowed to have without having to comply with that ordinance. So they're slipping underneath that radar as much as they can. We can't put in an ordinance more restrictive because it falls on the county now, not on the cities. Sure.
Couple dads and I have had many conversations about this as well. After reviewing some of the legislation, there are certain loopholes that are in there that actually might be ways that we can get more oversight to them. And so we're looking at every possible way so that we can provide some kind of oversight and ensure that they're not doing any kind of activity that we don't want going on in the city for sure. And then if we can require permits based upon that. So we're that.
Do y'all find the stores or anything like that?
Currently, no, those are the things that we're working through. So we want to work within the confines of the law. We don't want to step outside of that, but it became a little more abstract, the guidance on it. If that makes sense. So,
And so you'll see that's the first line under permits is the amusement machines. I have taken that off the budget just because we haven't collected anything because it's in limbo. So, and it's a small dollar amount, but I went ahead and took it off until we can actually count on that money.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Civic center fees is $40,000 for this fiscal year.
Yeah, it's a guess. Truly, it's honestly just a guess.
Liquor license?
We were trying to figure out potentially how many rentals we may have in a year, paying rentals.
We're gonna have two.
And I figured 2,000 a pop roughly on average. So I'm just being honest with you on how we came up with the $40,000. That's roughly how we came up with it. So we don't have any history to really base it off of. Everything is new this year. We may have 50 rentals this year. We may get $100,000 in revenue from the Civic Center. We may have 10 and get only $20,000. We just don't know. We felt pretty confident that 20 was a good number. I think we can conservatively budget 20 rentals for this next year in the Civic Center, which would put us above the $40,000 mark.
Some of the fees or profits from the Civic Center rental, will any of that go toward the building?
Yes. So, well, again, I think we talked about this last Friday. The goal and what's been expressed, I believe, by council is to help offset the tax note payment that the EDC has committed to. Again, there's been no formal action taken from council to really commit to
So
that.
that's not officially included in the budget. That is something we'll have to bring back
Right.
as money starts coming in and we want to establish a policy of what we're going to do, then we will.
Okay.
But if council wants to commit to that, then we need to put that in writing and bring it to you. So we've got it. We can make the budget amendments necessary to do that.
Like maybe a certain portion of each rental.
Yeah, whatever,
Consider-
however
okay.
we want to determine that.
Do people actually rent the pavilion? Do
Yes.
know
They do.
Yes.
They do.
about it?
Mhm. And I think as some of these, all these upgrades going on, I think that will increase.
And when they rent the pavilion, does this include the bounce houses that they have? Would they use the electricity that lives up there?
They have to pay to utilize the electricity. Yes.
Okay, so if I rent the pavilion, could I reserve the basketball court as well, or how would that work?
And yeah, we don't have the basketball court in the policy as an option to rent currently. We've only closed it down for city events if we've got something going on, but we've never had anybody inquire about it. We can certainly look at that if council feels like we need to write that into the policy, but we've just never been asked about that. And that is a good point. If somebody wanted to host a basketball tournament or
right.
something like that,
Mhm.
we probably do need to include that. So
That's a very good thought. That just blends right into the pavilion. That would make the pavilion more,
Either one.
more,
Johnson Park. or-
yeah, yeah,
Either one.
I'll make that note.
more attractive is the word I'm looking for. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Rental it on. Excellent, John. Never gave that a thought. Shows you how
Okay.
frequently I play basketball, right? But people use it. It's always used, both of them.
Any more questions on the general fund revenues?
What's the recycling fee?
Yeah, it's
It's a
Oh,
pass
That's a
through fee.
pass. Yeah.
Never mind. I know.
meaning,
The citizens pay for that on their water bill. We collect that. We turn around and have to pay Waste Connections for that service.
oh,
It's just a
okay, okay.
pass-through.
The same as the sanitation fees.
That's pretty good. We get charged for turning our trash in.
Did we ever decide on the volleyball court, the
Not-
sand volleyball pits?
No, ma'am, no decision's been made on how to proceed with that yet. We've got to finish a couple of the other projects, and I think that's probably next on our project list to start addressing on what our plan is to do there, what our options are. Whether we keep them or choose to do something different with them. The concern with investing any money in the volleyball courts, the way they currently sit, is that they're downgrade of the floodplain, so when that creek rises, the water runs right into the volleyball court, it washes the sand off and washes weeds into it. So we'll have to do some engineering to figure out how we prevent that from happening, because otherwise, any amount of money we put into the volleyball courts right now is a complete waste.
We're not getting off subject, but with the new playground equipment, that's going to be over that way, isn't it?
Yeah, so the inclusive playground will actually be on the south side of where the water park is, the splash pad. The inclusive playground will be on that side. The grant that we're getting from the feds to replace the park equipment will essentially replace the dilapidated equipment right where it's currently sitting.
Okay, so will we take up the splash pad and all of that?
That's another project that we just haven't had time to address and provide some options to, but our recommendation is that yes, that we plan to do something different with that than a splash pad. Whether it be a water feature or a sitting area for parents or some other creative idea. The splash pad has just been such a money pit for the city.
Yeah.
It's been hard to maintain.
So any more questions, on
So-
general fund?
Just like he had mentioned, you'll see the increase in the intergovernmental revenue for the SRO line. An increase of 110%. Offset on the expenditure side. So,
Okay, the Everman ISD SRO, that increased almost 300,000.
Yes, ma'am.
It's zero money for county lab fees,
restitution.
restitution.
It's not enough worth counting on, but we do still have it listed as a line item because we have to allocate it somewhere.
Thank you.
And you see a large reduction in labor liens recovery.
Yes.
For some reason, that was up at 15,000. And well, I know why. Several years back, we did collect $15,000, but that was a rare instance. That's not common. Generally, the only time we recover on those is if somebody's refinancing their house and we randomly get a payment from the title
Gotcha.
company. So I bump that way down so it's a more realistic number that's achievable.
Oh,
Down
well,
to
we're not
2,000.
going to discuss also the judges, the fees or something to that effect.
We can discuss the contract amount, but if council wants to discuss performance and continued contract, then we need to go into executive session for that.
That's renewed annually as well.
The judge is appointed by the council. And you can make that appointment, I believe, at any point in time. There's not a contract in place.
And that's an expenditure, right?
Yes, that is an
Okay.
expense.
Police donations, you've got lots of donations there. And you've got 11,000 for police donations, 1,000 for fire, and nothing for the others. Now, I know it says donations. How do we get 11,000 for police?
He smiles and says, give me your money.
I think you've got it backwards, though. I think you're showing your.
Oh, I'm in the wrong column. 3,000 for police. Thank you.
That's what we have actually received though.
Where, oh, I'm, okay, I'm looking down
Yeah,
at grant
she's-
revenue. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay, so police donations.
Yeah, it was on the wrong
Oh,
column.
okay,
It's only
I'm sorry.
3,000.
That was the flight, wasn't it?
I
Yes.
even have an
yes.
arrow there.
This past year, when we had two officers that traveled to Washington DC for Sergeant Arango's
Mhm.
memorial up there, the donor, we had a donor that paid for the airplane tickets, not only for those two, but the families as well.
That was
Okay.
nice.
So a lot of that
Yeah.
money was the donation to go to the purchase of those.
Okay.
plane tickets.
$10,000 of that
Okay.
goes towards
Yes.
that.
What on the officers that went to Uvalde,
What about
who paid for that?
them? We did as a city. We were reaching out to help them out. They put out a statewide call for assistance. So we sent two officers down there in one unit to help out.
Okay.
Now, they paid for the lodging and food and everything else. The only thing we paid for was their time and the fuel to get there.
How long did they stay there?
4 days. 4 days before coming back. And they worked patrol and security for the city council, as a matter of fact. They were assigned to city council members' homes, providing security for them.
And just like the special event donations, we received quite a bit of money this year, and that was primarily to help cover the gala expenses.
Yeah.
But you'll notice that I have 0 listed as the budget line item for that because we don't rely on that money to
Right.
cover our budget. That's just when we have special needs. So generally speaking, donations are not considered part of,
Right.
uh,
I wouldn't count on them.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, we done with this?
Yes.
Move on.
special revenues. Page 15 is the summary of TCO, which, so you can, this one's a really long one. One line item on page 16. It's in and out. We get the $1,500 and we spend the $1,500, so.
So 15 is in
It's-
or out and 16 is
It's
in?
both, yeah. We receive this amount in revenue and it goes out in expenditures for police training.
Okay. Gotcha.
That one's easy. Next, page 17 is the summary for EDC by type. If you turn to page 18, we'll shows the revenues there. And as you'll notice throughout, I have slightly been increasing the interest line item because as the interest rates have gone up slightly, we're starting to see a little bit more money coming in finally. So able to bump those numbers just a little bit.
So we still have the 20,000 allotted for what is it called?
We have 20,000 for big grant and 20,000 in incentives.
Right, right.
On the expenditure side. Yeah. Any questions with EDC? All right, page 19, TIF fund. Again, this is another short one. You'll see on page 20 is the revenue by account. And it is just an increase there in both of those line items. As the property taxes go up, so does the TIF revenue goes up. And the amount sitting in the bank goes up, so we've also increased the interest slightly.
Do you know what the current balance in the TIF fund is? Ballpark?
If you have your financials.
No, if you don't know, that's cool.
And what can it be paid or spent on?
500. Like, huh? Yeah, I think right around 500,000.
Okay.
And what can it be spent on?
It can be spent on anything infrastructure related within the TIF zone or governmental facilities anywhere in the city.
As of May, it was right at $400,000. Just under 400,000.
Did you add both lines?
Yes.
400,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Five.
Technically 395, 9 and some change.
Close enough, 395. Thank you. I like 500.
Now that was
better,
as
but
of May,
sorry.
so that's going to be up a little bit now in July. So
With the Hannah Ranch situation, we see that
Really start to increase.
increase
yes.
largely.
Okay. Page 21 is the street improvement summary by type. Page 22 is by the accounts within street improvement. So you see an increase in the tax amount and in the interest as well. That's the only change for that. See, these small ones go quick. So page 23 is the crime control summary. And 24, you'll see the revenue by account. And again, it's just the slight increase in the sales tax and the this one, I didn't increase the interest because it was the amount that's actually sitting in investments is not very much. So 100 is sufficient.
Since we're leasing now, do we still give that amount toward the crime control for cars?
yes, the crime control district pretty much exclusively pays for vehicles only. We don't utilize those funds for anything other than vehicle costs.
Right, but I'm saying since since we lease now, do we still need to take that amount out?
Yes, that's the
covers
crime
the
control
lease
district is covering the lease payments on all our police vehicles. That's how we're paying those lease payments is through the CCD fund.
Moving on to debt service. Page 26 is just the summary by type, and page 27. You'll see the increase in the property tax and the delinquent tax. And interest.
Those have actually dropped.
I'm sorry,
Those have actually dropped since last year.
what's that? No, all of those are increases.
It,
I'm confused.
well, like the, says on the current,
The fiscal year
oh,
22.
okay.
That's how
Never
much
mind,
we-
I'm looking at the wrong number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm confused.
It's going
We're
from,
proposing a budget of 411,000 coming in on
Uh-huh,
current taxes. This year, we budgeted 295, so that's
uh-huh.
an increase.
But
of
it looks like we got
116,000.
532.
that's year to date.
Yes,
Yeah.
and part of that is to be transferred out. You'll see at the end of 930, part of that is water fund to cover the debt service payment.
Oh, okay, okay. Because it's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Okay,
So what's at the end of what?
At the end of the fiscal year, when we true up the accounts, a portion of that amount needs to be transferred to water sewer fund to cover the water sewer debt service payment.
okay.
No other questions with that, then we'll move on to the water and sewer fund. Summary by type. Just a couple of notes on the front summary page here. You'll see an increase in all the line items, particularly the water fees. We've increased, not the rate that we charge people, but the consumption has gone up, so therefore our amounts have gone up. And under the equity change, you'll see that we have a surplus also listed here. So if you want to see specifics by account, turn to page 30. We can discuss them.
We shouldn't see any water rate increases this fiscal year.
No, ma'am.
We're not proposing the arrangement.
At this point in time,
Correct.
weasel word. Okay. Well, you
You're-
never know.
You're safe this fiscal year.
That's right.
Next couple months.
We pre-treat our sewer. We
That's a lot of
pre-treat
reconnect
sewage.
fees. That's a lot amount.
How many,
Oh, man.
Go
Last month we
how
had
many disconnects did you have?
like
yesterday?
80 a month.
I would have never thought
They
that.
processed 127 disconnects yesterday.
I would have never
Yeah.
thought that.
Yeah, I knew last month was like in the 80s. That, wow, I didn't know it was that.
And that,
Penalties?
and that is
Sorry?
due,
Penalties?
127 disconnects,
and that was due to,
Lack of payment.
lack of payment.
was it like for months that they've been behind?
If it's over $100, our cutoff is at $100. So if as long as they don't owe more than $100, they
Okay.
won't get a cutoff. If they owe more than $100, then they fall into cutoff status. And our ladies are phenomenal about working with residents as best as they can. And we'll even tell them, if you can just afford to pay it down to get it below $100, we won't cut you off. They also grant any extensions to any resident that calls up here if they're struggling to pay. She's more than happy to grant an extension to accommodate and help them out as long as they can. So they do bend over backwards to try to help folks out as much as they can. We also pass on the utility information, the utility payment, utility assistance information
Right. that's what I
every
was
time
wondering.
for a resident that may need it too.
The
Excellent.
water is turned off. How easy is it for that person to turn it back on?
It depends. It depends on the meter type that they have. So if it's an older meter type that is not a lockable meter, then the resident can very easily go out there and turn it back on.
I have a neighbor that the top is always off and on, off and on.
Right, and it could possibly be, however, it's a violation of city ordinance to do that, and we do issue citations for that. And our public works crews go out, they have a disconnect day, and then they have a follow-up the next morning. So they'll go back out and check everybody that was cut off and make sure that they remain cut off and that a resident did not tamper with a meter. If they did tamper with a meter, then we would take appropriate action and file a Class C offense against the property owner.
Do we not all have the same type of meter?
Not the same type of curb stop. The meter itself, yes, is all the same, but it's the curb stop portion that some have a lock on them and some are not lockable because of the age of the curb stop. I'm sorry, I misspoke when I said meter. It's not really the meter that reads it, it's the curb stop portion of it. I should have let you tell them that.
Is that what they're doing when they're driving around town?
Yes. We have some blue locks now, they're plastic locks. We go ahead and lock them
That's a
up. So
requirement every
we know if they go ahead and break it and we go out there that morning and it's broken, we know they went ahead and opened it. So we got able to take pictures of it.
Because I've seen them just drive down the street really slow, looking at meters.
But, oh,
Oh, that's probably
They're
them.
readings.
meter readings.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sending a signal to the phone.
Anything else
No,
on that? Okay, let's go to item A, payroll and benefits.
Susan's gonna pass this around, so y'all challenged me on, well, challenged us on Friday with finding out a way to make a 15% raise, and I'd love to take all the credit for it, but really it's Susan's work that got us to this. So what you're looking at is an 11.5% cost of living increase across the board for all employees. Plus, any employees that are not capped out on the pay scale will get that additional 3.5% step increase. So overall, a 15% increase, as long as they aren't capped. If they're already capped, they're at the max of the pay scale, then it's an 11.5% increase for those employees. Susan was able to do this and still present to you a tax rate reduction, which I think is just absolutely incredible that we're able to pull that off. So
Okay, so you're saying this is an 11.5 increase?
11.5 cost of living increase. So if you recall, we city council approved a pay scale last year, right? It had steps 1 through 10, and every employee on their job description is ranked on there somewhere. They start at step 1 and they go all the way once they've been here 10 years and they cap out at step 10, right? They don't make any more as far as a step increase unless the city council approves a cost of living increase. So every employee will receive an 11.5% cost of living increase if they're not capped out, if they're not at the end of that pay scale. And then they're still going to take a step this year, which is a 3.5% increase on top of that. So the majority of employees are not capped. We have a handful, less than 10, I think,
4 or 5.
employees, 4 or 5 that are at the end of that pay scale. So everybody else will be getting a 15% increase. The ones that are at the end of their pay scale will just be getting an 11. I say just be getting an 11.5. We'll be getting an 11.5% increase, which is still very helpful.
So all of these amounts are reflected in the expenditures. I've updated, as I was mentioning before, I made those, just those couple of corrections that we talked about, the dispatch and then the city council. And the only other change that was made to the expenditures was the salary line items to cover this. And so now with that, the revenues and expenditures are fully balanced.
So we can do this and still add 300,000 plus to reserves.
No, 130, what was the total? Excess?
Depends on the actual amount we receive.
Yeah, the performance. But
Oh, okay, never, I'm looking at the increase,
131,500 is the number you're thinking of.
okay.
But that's between general fund, water fund, that's all the funds. That's a total in excess.
Okay.
But we're able to do this, lower the tax rate and not pull from reserves in the general fund to do it.
I think that's great. You guys have done a phenomenal job on this.
It's all you, man.
So we're not voting on budget tonight or anything.
No, it's
so-
just presenting it, moving forward. Again, having your consensus so that because the next meeting, budgets will be prepared.
So we'll have a meeting on August the 2nd. And keep in mind, we will have a special called meeting on August the 9th. August the 9th will be the date that
Public hearing.
the public hearing and that the council will adopt the budget then.
But they should be ready to be distributed on the 2nd.
So we ask you to please look at this with a very critical eye. If there's anything to change, we would like to change it now, because if we have to change it at the 2nd, that means we have to completely redo the books.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's,
Trying to make it more easier.
I thought we talked on animal control.
Well, I'm sorry, what about animal
I
control?
thought we.
Regular meeting.
We talked on animal control,
Are we talking about their budget or the
Yes.
staff member themselves?
the staff members.
Okay, if we're gonna get into specific staff members, and I'm gonna say we need to go into executive session to do that, which we can do if that's what council wants to do, Mayor, that's it's your meeting, it's up to you, but I certainly wouldn't think it would be appropriate to talk about specific
No.
employees in open session.
Well, if there's a question, we'll talk about it in executive session. So,
Okay?
Okay, so August 2nd is our regular meeting,
That
and
is
you'll
correct.
have the budget prepared for us. Do we vote on it that night, or? is
no,
it-
because we have to have the public hearing on the 9th.
And we vote on it
But
the
it's,
9th?
it's so you have it to review.
Okay, and then we vote on it the 9th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, after the public hearing closes.
Talking, because we had discussed it earlier, if I'm the only one that wants to discuss it.
well, I mean, if we're in there, we'll go and get Craig to come in. If there's any questions you got, let's answer.
Yeah,
Let's not do it
I'm
in
happy
open
to
meeting.
answer any
Let's-
question you got. I just want to make sure that we're being appropriate and not addressing specific employees in open session, that's all.
Right, that we don't do that.
Okay, so anything else on that? Okay, then we're gonna go into executive session, section 551074, personnel matters, past performance review and evaluation of the city manager. The time is 6:32. Rick, you want to come on in and we talk about that? and then-
For just a second to let
No,
Sorry, sorry.
you get me between Susan and Linda. Both
I say
have
that, but there was
passed.
some changes.
Okay, we will.
Okay,
Then we come in
ready?
here.
No,
Y'all
no,
ready? Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. The time is 7:14. I guess no action was taken. Next item, city manager's report.
I was just going to remind everybody, we do have a council meeting next Tuesday, and then we will have the public hearing and adoption of the tax rate and budget the following Tuesday. So a couple more Tuesdays, and then we're done for, well, no, because then we'll have a meeting the week after that for a regular council meeting. So a few more Tuesdays, and then we can get a little bit of a reprieve. Other than that, I don't have anything for tonight, Mayor.
Next thing's mayor's report. I don't have anything, so that being said, the time is 7:15 and we are adjourned.
All right.
Now, everybody